talking about how
Seeds.
I'm doing wrong.
We're talking about seeds.
You said the
It's
seeds that I'm planting.
your percent. Here, hold this. Everybody plants seeds. The point is, you're not the only one. Everybody plants seeds, whether it's good seeds or bad seeds. Everybody plants seeds. The seeds that they've been telling themselves all their lives, or the seeds they just started to plant now. The thing is, depending on if it's a good seed or a bad seed. And what seed am I actually talking about? Where is the seed being planted?
In your heart.
Well, I'm not actually talking about, well, it could be both. Seeds planted in your heart or seeds planted in your mind. Each one, if it's a negative seed, can bring forth harvest that is good for you or bad for you.
Bad.
And when we plant these seeds and we water them, they bring forth negativity in our lives. That ultimately, what? Can easily bring sickness to us. Is it once we wait too long?
And it can bring stress to you.
It can bring stress to you.
Stress to you can
what
make
else?
you sick. Actually kill you.
Huh?
I said stress can make you sick.
And it can make you sick.
Kill you.
There's a lot of stuff. Anger can make you sick. Disappointment can, if you let it fester too long, it can make you sick. And sometimes we unknowingly water those seeds, and we keep watering those seeds, and we're wondering why we're not getting better. We wonder why things are not changing, and then how we feel, our perspective on things. Perspective is a very powerful thing. Very powerful. I'm reminded of, remember that little animated video that we seen about the cookie?
Yeah, right. Stop motion?
Huh? Yeah. Well, for those who haven't seen it, I'm going to tell it real quick. So this old lady, she's in the train station, and she goes to the vending machine, and she sees this cookie. She works really hard. The pack of cookies gets stuck. You know how you put the money in the machine, and it gets stuck right there. It's the last one. And so she's trying to hit the thing and get it down, whatever. And she finally gets it down. She puts it in her purse. Then she walks outside, and she's put her purse on the bench, and she's a short lady. She's sitting there on the bench, and the next thing you know, she's opening up her cookies and eating it. And she has a newspaper, and she lays the cookie down beside her and starts to read the newspaper. What happened next?
And then another boy. And
there's a young man. He's a young man. He's sitting next to her. He grabs the cookie, one of the cookies out of the tray, and eats it. Now this makes the woman upset.
Wait, that man was already there. He was already there.
Yeah, he was sitting there when she sat down. And she started to just get upset with this. You know, she took the tray back and put it in her lap, and she continued to read her newspaper. And he took the tray out of her lap and put it beside him. So this woman is like, what are you doing? This is my cookies that I've eaten on, and I paid for, and I purchased. Why are you taking my cookies? She didn't say anything because it's an animated video, so no one's actually talking. It's all verbal with their body language. She's upset, and so he takes another cookie and eats it. One. He eats the because there's only 4 cookies in the tray. He eats the third one, and he takes the last one, and she's like, no, wait, and then she takes the tray and she put it out upside down, like, you know, this is it. Come on, don't eat my last cookie. And he looks at the cookie, and he looks at her, and then he breaks it in half and gives one to her, and he eats the other half. And he's just happy, you know, he's sitting there just like, that was a good cookie. And she is furious. She crumbles the cookie up and stumps on it.
And then he start yelling at him. He ain't listening.
He was listening to music the whole time, so he just like, okay. He's moving his head like that. She gets mad, so she gets on her train. She's walking on her train, and she turns back at him, and she gives him like this mean look. She gets on the train. The guy asks her for a ticket. She gives her a ticket. The ticket gets stamped. She puts it back in her purse. Then she opens her purse up,
and she saw her cookies.
And her cookies were in her purse the entire time.
And that was not her cookies.
So she actually opened up someone else's cookie. And so, with me saying all this, we're talking about perspective. It's the perspective of each person. From his perspective, he's like, this old woman is crazy. Like, she must be really hungry. I'm going to help her out. Because he could have got upset too. But he did not have any type of emotion of being upset. He was just like, okay, grandma's eating my cookies, you know? But for her, she was furious. This man, this boy, is eating my cookies, essentially.
And she didn't even know that was hers.
And reality was, it wasn't even hers. So, going back to what I was saying, everybody has a perspective on everything. And sometimes your perspective may not be as accurate as you think. We can assume things, and that's one of the 4 agreements. I don't know all of them by heart, but one is be impeccable about your word.
Where'd you learn this?
Which means if you're going to say you're going to do something. And the one that me and my husband always say to each other all the time is, don't assume. We as humans, we always assume things according to how we feel about something that happens, whether it's something that's not spoken. If a person doesn't call you, okay, please stop. If a person doesn't call, you assume something. If a person don't say anything, we have these things in our mind that we assume to be true, but sometimes it's not. And our assumption normally leads us in the wrong direction, where we can have hatred and be upset about different things. And come to find out, when we actually sit down and talk to the other person, they have like a really good reason why this is happening, or a reason why they did what they did, or said what they did. Sometimes assumption can be a dangerous thing. So it's better to get clarity than just assume. And most of the time we assume a lot of things, going back to the seed, we assume a lot of things in our lives to be right. And we feed that assumption, and we keep watering it. And when we water it, how do we water something that's in our mind? Well, we consume it, in terms of that's always on our mind. It festers in our heart, and it makes us angry, and we put these stories together to make it seem right and plausible, but in reality, it's just false information that we just watered. Or, like, for instance, if someone says, oh, these girls are so pretty, but they never said that I am pretty, I'm just automatically assuming that I must not be pretty. I must be ugly. Because they didn't say, I'm making an example, they didn't say that you were ugly. You just assumed because no one pointed out to you that you were pretty. And so you feed that negativity, and it festers, and it becomes your identity. So now you walking around with this, once a little plant like the plant that she showed us. Now it becomes a big tree. And when something like that becomes a big tree, it's hard to uproot. It's hard to let go of that negative thought, because we've been working so hard to feed that thought. And it don't have to be pretty. It could be anything that we tell ourselves because of assumptions. And we feed it, and it festers, and it grows to something that is our habit or our stronghold. And it's time to, and I tell the kids all the time, especially when they having problems, like, this is a time, while it's young, this is a time to kind of kick those bad habits, kick those negative thoughts, because if you continue on, it's going to be a lot harder to get rid of once you're my age. And if you continue to water that plant and bring sunlight to that plant of negativity, because it's easier to uproot grass. The seeds, the roots are not that deep. But a tree that's been growing for 10 to 15 years is now taller than you, and you just can't take your hands around it and pull it out of the ground. You're going to need to do something more drastic. You're going to need to get an axe, and then after an axe, you're going to have to get a shovel to dig up the roots that's in there in order to uproot it completely out of your mind and out of your heart. And if you got something that's new, it's better to go ahead and try to uproot it as soon as you can before it becomes a problem later. I know about problems that people have, and they let it fester for years and years and years and years. And now, as an adult, you take your time to try to uproot those negative thoughts. It's time to do it now, So, do you understand? I said, do you understand all about the uprooting of plants, negative thoughts, and seeds, planting? And the other thing is, sometimes it's like, what is the thing that I have on the board? The first thing you have to do when you understand something negative.
The magic of, no.
You have to recognize that the thought, because sometimes we don't think about the thoughts that we have. We just let them happen and we move on with them versus versus recognizing that this thought is not a positive one. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't uplift me. So this is a negative thought. So once you recognize it, the next step is to reject it and go, okay, this is not real. I know this is not something I need to hold on to. And the third step is what? Replace it with a positive thought. So if my thought is everybody thinks, or I'm not pretty, or everybody thinks I'm ugly, whatever you want to say, then you have to recognize, no, that's not true. I am not ugly. And then you have to bring forth the positive. I am pretty. I'm gorgeous. Look at me. I'm created in His image. Look at it. Not in a bragging way, yes, you don't, but it's self-love. It's being willing to love what God created you to be. And it's not just that, it's different things. I'm just making an example because I made the example earlier about about your looks. And because women, we have these strongholds of how we look, measuring ourselves to other people all the time. And that's something that we really do need to uproot and replace with some positivity. Replace with something that is true, that is pure. The scripture says, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is good report, whatever is praiseworthy, whatever is noble, think on those things. So the things that are bad or ugly, or all those not positive things, we throw those things away. Can you come back so I can finish your haircut? We don't supposed to really focus on those things. If we recognize them and then we let them go, realizing that they have no place in our minds or in our hearts. And little by little, we'll become like a better person. We'll become better people. So many people walking around here depressed and stressed out from assumptions. Something that's technically not even real. Something they believe to be real, and it's not. So that's my 10 cents. Or my
Not that brush.
2 cents, rather. Turn this way. Like that, right there. Just like that.